Good day, everyone. Welcome to this part 3 of the Granville Super Chief construction project I got going on here. I'm Scooter, coming to you live today from the Granville Guitars World Headquarters. As you can see, he's done. Went through a few hoops to get it this way. That's usually how it goes. You know, we usually have to shuck and jive a little bit along the way. I have heard it. I've powered it up. It sounds like the voice of God. It's just over the moon for it. The 2204 and 2203 designs to me are among the most versatile and the most toneful that there are. And I'm just real pleased with how this one came out. I was pretty much in an advanced state the last time you saw this. I have since received the front and back faceplates from our good friends over at Modulus over in the UK. Seek them out. They do very fine chassis, and I'm very pleased with the faceplates, with one tiny exception, which I'll show you here in just a moment. One of the things that happened, our good friends over Patrick over at Mercury Magnetics, that's where we got the transformers for this guy. You'll notice a little bit of a different configuration with the rectifier. Initially, when I powered this thing up, there was all sorts of weird voltages, and I had filament voltage, I had bias, all the things you'd want, but the rectifier was not working right, and that's because it requires this transformer. This power transformer is an exact reproduction of an early 80s, late 70s, what would be the JCM 800. And as such, it has what's called a voltage doubler for its mains power supply. So I had to reconfigure my rectifier down there. Not the same as my 50 watt or other JCM 800 designs. It was my own fault. I didn't in my race for power and glory. I neglected to pay close attention to the schematic drawing provided by Mercury that goes with this transformer. And once I understood what it was that I had to do, it went smoothly after that. It was just a matter of reconfiguring it to become a voltage doubler. I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember exactly how far along I was in the last video. I don't think I had a lot of this wiring in here. I had installed the pots. Now you'll notice that bright yellow wire right there. That wire is the jumper that will be removed when I install the Metropolis zero loss effects loop in this bad boy, which it will be getting. You want to make sure the amp is functional and all your voltages are normal and it sounds good and there's no problems before you introduce the effects loop to it. It's not that it changes anything, or it's just better. That way you know you've got the right voltages. I'm going to have to install a step-down resistor, a dropping resistor. Hang on. Typically, I will take the power for the Metropolis right here and install it between here and this turret right there, and then run my wire off to the effects board, which will be in there shortly. Like I said, I've already powered it up. Thing sounds awesome. It's big and clear and really responsive. I'm real happy with how it turned out. Something about the 100 watt platform. I'm still a 50 watt guy. That's still where I live and breathe and where my favorite sounds are. But I wanted to have 100 watt because it's just helpful to have points of reference as such in my line of work. Now we're going to take a real quick peek here. It's upside down, but you can kind of see the, let's see if I can, I'll have to move it back. you can see this back plate, and like I say, it's upside down. I'll give you a right side up look at it later. But it's got my slogan on the back of there, punish the innocent, or I'm sorry, it's early, I haven't finished my first cup of coffee. Protect the innocent, punish the wicked. And then it's got the serial number I've picked for this and all that sort of jazz back here. Now here are the jacks for the Metropolis effects loop. The only problem back here was that he's reversed the send and return. So what that means, my first thought was, okay, no big deal. I'll just install it upside down, like this. Well, the problem is, in order for this hole to allow the switch that goes with it to turn the circuit on and off, if I install it upside down, that switch will not fit. If I hadn't already drilled this hole out on the faceplate, I could probably have put the hole wherever I wanted to, and I could do that and still use those. So essentially what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to install it correctly, which would be component side up like this, and I'm going to have to relabel where it says send and return so that we have return here and send there. It's a minor thing, very minor. Some Marshall effects loops are configured this way, and I'm sure that's what they were thinking at Modulus, but at any rate, the plates are awesome, and as you can imagine, since he's the guy that made the chassis, they fit on there with absolutely no problems whatsoever. They just went on like a glove, essentially. Real happy with them. They look really, really nice. They have a nice luminous kind of a sheen to them that's real attractive. Let's flip it around, look at the front. Yeah, you can see what we're talking about here on the front. Some folks have asked what AMD is. Well, I always give two answers. It could be amplifier of mass destruction, but in reality, that's my wife's initials. In the tradition of Marshall names, Marshall amplifier names, I chose initials for a model number. So that's what that stands for. I got my chicken head knobs on here so I can see what's going on at a glance from across the room. And like I said in an earlier video, there's a whole bunch of extra holes in the chassis that don't get used. If you look at the rear of the chassis there's an extra speaker jack hole. And I think that's it on the back. But on the front, it has holes that could accommodate 2 more input jacks. And down here, it has an extra hole for an additional potentiometer, which I'm obviously not going to use. And then it also has holes for the standard old school flip switches and pilot light should you want to go that way. So this chassis, this one chassis, can accommodate a wide range of build schemes. Can't say enough good about it. It's zinc plated, so it's kind of yellow, just like the old ones. I mean, if I didn't know any better, I'd say it was a Marshall chassis. It's that good. It really is that good. And his faceplates are exceptional. I'm very, very pleased with them. Typically, I use Mojo Tone for my faceplates, and they do fantastic work. But their situation has changed a little bit. They no longer do things in the small quantities that I need. You have to order, I think, at least 25 for new designs. The good news is that they'll still make me small quantities of designs I've already had them do. So I'm going to still continue to use Mojo Tone for my back and face plates. I went with Modulus for this one, mainly because I knew he had the measurements, the exact measurements for this chassis, and he would be able to provide me with face plates that would fit precisely with no headache, and these did. They fit precisely. So there was no issues there. except for the one thing with the effects loop jacks. Not a big deal. I'm just going to relabel them and go on with my life. It's not like it's something it's going to sit there and I'm going to see all the time. So it's really not a big deal. Let's have a look inside from this angle, he said while dropping the mic. Let me get over here. You can see the rear where I've done the, there's your fuse holders, IEC receptacle. I did not hook up the voltage selector. It's my amplifier. It's not going to Europe anytime soon, so it's hardwired for 120 volts. Output impedance selector. And those are vintage, by the way. Both of those switches are new old stock, vintage correct parts. If someday, you know, this amplifier should somehow end up with somebody who wants to use international voltages, it's a simple matter to hook those up. There are the additional wires right there, all bundled up and shrink wrapped so they can't hurt anybody. For the additional taps, your 220 and your 240, and there's a 100 volt tap, I believe, too. That's additional. So anyway, there's your rectifier. Again, there's another look at the voltage doubling rectifier. B plus on this amp is 485, in that ballpark. I'm using JJ KT77s in it. Don't wrinkle your nose. I love those tubes. I love JJ tubes. I like 34s just fine. EL34s, which is your typical Marshall tube. But the KT77 just gives you more of that. It's bigger. I think it's slightly louder and clearer sounding to my ear. It gives me a little more of what I want out of whatever amplifier I put them in. I put them in a lot of different amps, and they always win out over the 34, in my opinion. But I can easily put 34s in this if I change my mind someday, or I may put 6550s in it someday. You just never know. You never know what's going to happen. So let's flip it over and look at the other side of the chassis. All right, there are the aforementioned Mercury transformers. And my gosh, they sound good. They really do. They run real cool. I had this thing on for several hours, being picky about the matching of the tubes and the bias setting, etc. And man, they just run cool as a cucumber, and they just sound terrific. You know, the quality costs you a little more, I think. Not always, but, you know, and as I've said in other videos, are there other options? Sure, there are other options. When I want to go with the best in terms of transformers, I use Mercury. That's what I do in my shop. You can do whatever you want in yours, but I highly recommend Mercury for your transformer needs. They're fine people to work with, very knowledgeable, willing to answer questions at any time. Just a great company to work with. I'm really pleased with how these transformers have worked out in this amp. So that's pretty much the whole story. Up next for this thing, I have to put it aside for a little while and actually do some work, some repairs that need to get done. But later today, I am going to put the zero loss effects loop in it and put it all back into the box. I'll do a short clip showing the inside with the zero loss in place so that you can see, you know, where it sits and how the wires are supposed to get run, etc. It's kind of critical. So I'm going to show that, and then you will see a play test, probably, maybe not tomorrow, but the next day. I've planned to do it Saturday when it's going to be a little bit more quiet around here, and you know, not so much noise from the neighbors who have a boat repair and a glass factory and other things. So I just Wanted to have no sound interruptions for that, so that may have to wait till Saturday. But anyway, gonna put the zero loss in later today, so that's coming up right now. Stand by. Okay, it's later in the day. Little procedure is finished there. Right now, I am breaking in and testing the zero loss. So you can see if you look down here, that bad boy has been installed, and I've relabeled it to suit the board. So yeah, no harm, no foul. I don't have any problem with that, honestly, because they just look so nice. You can see I've added the Mercury emblem to the back. There is the Metropolis zero loss board right there, and this switch takes it in and out of the circuit. As you can see, in place of that jumper wire that I pointed out, that yellow jumper wire, we've interrupted that with the zero loss between the master volume and the treble potentiometer. Right there, you can see it. It's there's these two wires here. This black one here and this black one there. And they're shrink wrapped together and heavily shielded, and wire runs as short as possible to give us the best sound quality out of it that's possible. So yeah, it's the same as the last segment. I've just added the effects loop to it. Like I say, when I'm doing one of these builds, the effects loop gets added after the fact. I like to make sure the amp is all dialed in and I have a good feel for how it sounds and feels. And then when you add the effects loop to it, with any luck whatsoever, it's all golden. Now, when I last checked my B Plus just a few minutes ago, it was 480 volts. Let's recheck that. And it's leveled out to about 476, which is good. And now I'm going to check the voltage for the zero loss. If I can get my probe in there. 272 volts. That's really, that you want it between, well, I'll get the instructions here. The zero loss comes with a wonderful instruction set. It's not really a do-it-yourself project unless you have amp building experience. You probably should have it done, but it's not, it's not hideously difficult or anything like that. The general note here says a B plus for the loop board of around 300 volts is a good general target to aim for, though a range from 250 volts to around 320 is acceptable. So we're at 272, and I'm happy with that. That's where most of them that I've installed in the last few years have ended up, somewhere in that ballpark. So yeah, haven't listened to the effects loop yet. I'm still in the charging stages. You have to have it on for a while and test it a bit. Then you put it in standby, and then you bring it back on and recheck it. You have to form that cap, that big cap right there at the end of the board. That is the filter cap, this one right here, for the little power supply in that thing. That's basically most of it right there. But you need to make sure that thing is running properly and taken up and down a bit. Now, if we'll look up to the board here, you can see my dropping resistor is right here, tucked right in there. And took that off the phase inverter filter supply. And I ended up with the 56K resistor. It's a little larger than normal. I probably could have gotten away with the 47K. We'll see. I may go to the 47K. It just depends on how the voltage for the effects loop ends up sitting. And then you do have to change one other resistor as well. There's a pair of 10Ks that are in series on these amps right here. And this one has to be changed to a 5.6 in my particular configuration in order to maintain the same voltage levels and tone that the amp had before. So, yeah. Anyways, that's it. Zero loss effects loop. Let's see if I can get over top of it a little bit and give you a better bird's eye view of that thing installed in here. There it is right there. It comes as one piece like that. You don't have to assemble that. You do have to drill holes in your chassis, so make sure that you're comfortable drilling holes if you have a vintage piece. It will devalue a vintage amplifier to drill holes in the chassis. So I don't recommend it unless, if the customer insists. I generally say the customer is always right, but yeah, typically I would recommend against it. So there you go, the Metropolis Zero Loss. I will definitely have it hooked up when I do the sound test demonstration of this amp, so you can hear the effects loop in all its glory. So stay tuned for that. I didn't realize I was completely off frame there. See, that's what happens when you're your own cameraman and sound man and everything else. Sometimes things get left by the wayside. But anyway, that's all I know for today on this, the Granville Super Chief amplifier. It's completed. You'll be seeing a sound test demo of it very soon. Not today, sorry. I do have other repairs that have to get done. But anyway, certainly in the next few days you will see a sound test demo of this sucker, and you can hear what one of these blazing, raging 100 watters sounds like in all its glory. That's all I know for today. If you got any questions about anything we do here at Granville Guitar, seek us out on the web, www.granvilleguitars.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and the Granville blog is over at WordPress, a view from the Granville bench. That's all I know for now. Be good to one another.